previous episode, the Japanese spent most of their time attacking China for the first 2 turns and raking in that extra United States oil money. And the Chinese did everything they could to avoid combat, pulling all the way back to the far reaches of their territory. The Japanese also purchased several aircraft carriers and destroyers to bolster up their fleet. Turn 3 saw the Japanese declare war on the United States, Anzac, and the United Kingdom, attacking the United States fleet off the coast of the Philippines, sinking an Anzac transport off the coast of Celebes. The United Kingdom has spent the first 2 turns capturing Sumatra and Java and reinforcing their positions in Anzac. Used most of their first 2 turns to shuffle troops around Australia, bring troops back from New Zealand, and to take Celebes and to join the British fleet off the coast of Java. The Japanese also moved their troops from Guangxi to Burma and combined it with an attack from Yunnan on Burma, and they seem poised to launch an attack against Calcutta on the next turn. The United States, being mostly a peacetime economy, had only purchased a couple bombers and had moved their fleet down to Hawaii to get ready to get in the fight as soon as possible. And that's where we pick up with the United States, turn 3.
Over there, send the word over there, that the Yanks are coming.
The United States, after purchasing some bombers, moved their entire force down to the Solomon Islands and Sea Zone 49. They also bring a fighter back from the Philippines and bring their bombers down to Queensland. On to China, turn 3. The Chinese, noticing a gap in the Japanese lines, launched a counterattack against Shinsi this turn, which they were successful in taking. The British decided to hold out in India and try to make a good battle with the Japanese. They brought their troops back from Sumatra and brought their planes back from Malaysia and purchased some infantry. So they were hoping to make a defense in India. And they also brought some of their troops back up from Malaysia to Shan State. The British did launch an attack on the submarine off the coast of Celebes this turn, and were soon followed by the Anzac fleet. Anzac mostly made non-combat movements, moving their troops around Australia, preparing the defenses against the Japanese decided to move their way next. On to Japanese turn 4. Japan starts their turn out by launching an attack against Calcutta and trying to take the British capital in India. They launched all their infantry, ship-based troops, and also brought down all their fighters in the top right from Guangxi, including all the aircraft from their 3 aircraft carriers and bombers from up north in China. Japan also launched an attack against Shan State this round. Japan also launched a successful sub-attack against the Anzac transport and destroyer off the coast of New South Wales. Japan also launched an invasion of the Philippine Islands this turn, supported by their carriers and fighters and shore bombardments. The Japanese retreated in China this turn, hoping to gather up some forces to counterattack the Chinese in future rounds. And now, the Battle of India. The Battle of India, the odds favor the Japanese, but the British might surprise us. On to round 1. Underperformers all around in the first round of the Battle of India. The Indian anti-aircraft guns shot down 1 Japanese plane, but the British fighters getting 0 hits was also very damaging to the British. On to round 2. The Japanese scored 8 hits in round 2, and the British scored 7 hits. This battle is starting to look more desperate for the British. On to round 3. The Battle of India is over with the Japanese winning. The British managed to score a lot of hits and take out a lot of Japanese ground troops, but in the end, the overwhelming aerial superiority of the Japanese was too much for the British to handle. With the British losing Calcutta, they will lose all the money they currently had saved, and the Japanese will get an additional 5 IPCs bonus each turn for holding the British capital. The United States continues to build bombers and bring them down to Queensland, and also landed and took Papua New Guinea, and landed some of his fighters over in Celebes to help out the Anzac troops stationed there. The Chinese spread it out and took back some of their territories, recapturing a total of 4 territories this turn, getting them another 4 IPCs. Anzac mostly shuffled units around in non-combat this turn, moving their fleet and the British fleet back to join the Americans around Papua New Guinea, and moving some of their troops around Australia to better defend the island. Bulldog here. I'd like to thank you for watching this part 2 of our series on Axis and Allies Pacific 1940. If you enjoy what you see, hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. And I appreciate all the comments left on the previous video, and I usually get around to reading them, so leave as many comments as you like, any suggestions, thoughts, anything like that, and I'll see you next time.